I would like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. If you would, please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our invocation. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Riska. Can we please have the roll call tonight?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Kosky?
Here.
Kosky?
Present.
Radke?
Present.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Present.
Yanas?
Here.
Present.
Thank you, Council. We need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Kosky.
move to approve the agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
could we please move item M off the consent agenda and make it consideration item 8B?
Item M from the consent agenda will become consideration item 8B. Is there any other? Mrs. Sarowski.
Mayor Taylor, point of order. If we do that, that is bringing this item into deliberation and through the chair to our attorney. Shouldn't deliberations be done during a public hearing with the community so that any questions and concerns that we have can be discussed within the public forum?
Well, I mean, that's what it already is. It's on the consent agenda, so it's available for the public to comment and debate it. And the consent agenda is just there
But
for
did I
routine-
not, point of order on that, did I not ask the city
You
attorney for
did
his?
ask the city attorney,
Okay.
and I will defer to the city attorney.
Thank you.
But I'm telling you my perspective, and and I'm asking, I guess, a clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that it wouldn't be up for debate tonight otherwise?
We have not notified the public of this.
It's on the agenda.
It was on the consent agenda.
Mr. Koszubski.
So the matter before you tonight is to set a public hearing and to adopt a resolution of intent that is on the consent agenda tonight. It is generally a perfunctory matter to set that agenda item. However, it is on consent, and it can be pulled by a council member, and it becomes a consideration item.
So the point is that it was to set the public hearing, and the people who may want to come and have that conversation or hear and to have any public input would not generally be here at this time, because they would be coming for the public hearing.
Yes, but if a council member, for example, wanted to change the public hearing date because they're not going to be here, that would be a debatable question that they could
Okay.
do.
So I'm just saying, the people that may want to talk about this aren't going to be here, and they won't be able to hear this conversation, so.
If they wanted to talk about this and if they wanted to hear the discussion, they should be here. It's on the agenda. I think it's been common practice for the last 15 years and probably much longer than that, that if a council member wants to move an item from the consent to the consideration, it's usually granted. Do you have an objection or do you want to vote?
I don't have an objection. I just want to make sure that everybody who has an opinion on this would be able to, the community would be able to have that conversation or be able to voice their concerns. Normally, they would do that at the public hearing. The public hearing has yet to be set. So now we're going to be having this conversation without a public hearing yet to be set, and they're not here.
Mr. Mayor, briefly.
Mr. Radke.
This is just to set the public hearing. And the reason I'm pulling it is to talk about what kind of public hearing we want to have versus a DDA. This whole idea is we're setting what kind of public hearing we're going to have. So there's no point setting a public hearing if in that discussion we decide to change it. This is why I'm having this today. And I was also under the understanding that the consent agenda is just that. It requires unanimous consent. That's why it would be the consent agenda.
Council, anyone else? All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Yanes.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is the conversation to this, and I apologize, I was just in the process of pulling up to see what the resolution is, to set a date. Is the conversation on this item strictly around the setting of the date, or can we discuss further the issue of CIA versus DDA?
I think we can discuss anything we want that's germane to the item.
Okay, thank you.
Council, anyone else? All right, with no further discussion, all those in favor of approval of the agenda with the removal of consent agenda item M, making that 8B, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First item on our agenda tonight is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to remind everyone that our yard waste collection program started yesterday, so you now can set out your yard waste at the curb, as is customary every spring. We request that you set your yard waste out in 32-gallon containers, 64 and 96-gallon containers. It cannot be in plastic bags. If you use bags of any sort, it should be paper bags. So just a reminder, I think almost all of our residents know that by now, but the good news is the program has started once again. Also, the Department of Public Works will discount its tree program in the month of May to encourage residents to purchase trees for the fall 2023 planting. So these would be trees in the right-of-way. We have many residents who partake in this program, so we are now taking reservations, if you will. So please feel free to contact our DPW department or visit our website for more information. And I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the screen. We have a new and exciting program that we have rolled out, and it's a continued effort to do all that we can to lower water costs. And we've developed a new website portal that enables residents to sign up for this portal, and they can review their water usage almost instantaneously. So if you want to know how much water you used yesterday, you can log on to this site and see just that. If you want to see if you have any unusual spikes in your water, you can simply go to this portal and check via your account. This is incredibly useful for any individuals who think they might have a leak of some sort. In the past, without this program, you had to wait 3 months, and if you had a spike in your water bill, you could surmise that you might have a leak. But with this, you can set alerts, and the system will alert you on your iPhone or send you an email and let you know that you had unusual water consumption the day before or the week prior, however you set the alert on the system. Again, you can monitor your daily usage, your weekly usage, your monthly usage through this system. And you can even compare how you're doing with other users throughout the system, which is kind of helpful too, to see if you're above average, average, or below average in your water consumption. And this is just some of the imagery that you'll get by going to this portal. It's really easy to use. I'll show you a QR code here shortly, but it's the same QR code on our website. You can simply take a picture of it. It'll take you right to the page. And once you put in your account, you'll be logged in, and then you can use the system regularly. You can also use it on your smart devices, including iPhones and other smartphones, in addition to your desktop. It also gives you good information about if you do have a water leak. Let's say, for example, it's a running toilet. You can figure out on average how much that would cost over a month period of time if you didn't fix that leak. And it's really surprising to know just how much that costs. So we hope individuals find the system friendly, useful, and it's just one other tool you have to manage your water utility bill. And I also wanted to highlight, and here's a QR code, by the way, so you'll see this on a lot of our material going out, flyers in your water bill and the like. And again, this will take you right to the web page from your iPhone. Another program that we're rolling out with this is encouraging residents to sign up for paperless billing and auto pay. And if you do this, it's far more easier, by the way, to pay your bills electronically through this system and receive your bills rather than getting hard copy. It's environmentally friendly. You have an archive of your bills electronically and so on. But the auto pay is really simple too. You can either pay via your checking or savings account or via credit card. And assuming you sign up for the service, you'll get a $5 credit on your monthly bill, which will save you $60 a year. So we're excited to roll this program out. It's kind of unique. I'm not aware of other communities that are have developed this sort of program. So Sterling Heights is, I believe, on the leading edge with this. And I wanted to highlight once again, while none of us like paying water and sewer bills, no more so than we like paying our broadband bills or streaming TV bills and other gas and electric and so on. But it is important to note that we rank very favorably with other communities when we look at our monthly water and sewer bills. For example, you can see from this chart, on the high end, Fraser is leading the area with their average monthly bill at $146. And thankfully, Sterling Heights is down at the bottom where we want to be at $68 per month when you look at all these comparable communities. And with the $5 credit, that lowers the bill even a little more. So we hope you'll take advantage of this. Please go to our website. This is being branded and it's all over the website, so it's super easy to get to. And Mayor, continuing on, we have a really exciting program coming up, and that is our human library, and our community relations director, Melanie Davis, is going to talk about this exciting program.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool, Mayor Taylor, and members of council. So I'd like to share a bit about an upcoming event that we're really excited about, something called the Human Library. It's coming up on Thursday, April 13th, from 6 to 9 p.m. in the community center. This event is made possible by a partnership that is between our public library, the Community Alliance Commission, and the Human Library, which is an international organization headquartered in Copenhagen, Denmark. Just a little bit about the organization that's helping us bring this event to our community. The Human Library Organization aims to contribute to greater tolerance and understanding between people worldwide. It's a method to create a dialogue between very different individuals who would, not otherwise have an opportunity to talk to each other. The Human Library Organization was started in 2000, so it's almost 25 years old, and it's now available in more than 80 countries, but this is the first time that a Human Library event has been held in Macomb County, and we are very, very excited that it's taking place right here in Sterling Heights. So a little bit about how it works. This is a library where we, meaning the library and the Community Alliance, act as a publisher, and we publish people as open books for conversations about unique life experiences. A book is a person who volunteers to represent a group in the community and, based on their personal experiences, can answer questions from readers to help challenge stereotypes. For example, we may have a book titled Muslim Immigrant, or Autistic, or Black Police Officer, and so on. So the idea here is that we no longer want people to judge a book by its cover. We want our residents to join us as readers on April 13th and unjudge someone at this unique library where we encourage courageous and curious conversations. All reader questions are expected, and our books appreciate them and are prepared to answer them. Conversations are about 30 minutes long, and readers can check out more than one book if they have the time and if that book is currently available to be checked out. So here's just a little video in less than 60 seconds to give you a little bit of an idea about what the Human Library is.
To meet people and to have that conversation with people, I think it's better to than just read in a book and hear about them in the news.
I'm so ashamed that I judge these people before I'm very sorry about it, and I hope more and more people recognize that.
So this event also includes some light food and beverage. It includes some fun giveaways, and it includes some raffle prizes as well. So we hope all of our residents will take advantage of the opportunity to come out, check out A Human Book, and on-judge someone next Thursday, April 13th from 6 to 9 in the community center. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mayor, the last item on my report, I just want to remind everyone that our next city council meeting will be held on Monday, April 17th instead of Tuesday, the 18th, and that's due to the Michigan Municipal League Capital Conference being held in Lansing, which the city council attends every year. So again, there's a change. The next council meeting will be on Monday, April 17th. And Mayor, that concludes my report this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool and Ms. Davis. And don't go too far, because the next item on our agenda is a presentation of the Employee and Department/Office Awards for 2022. We have introductions by our Community Relations Director, Melanie Davis, and our Human Resources and Benefits Manager, Kate Baldwin. Ms. Baldwin.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, Honorable City Council, Mr. Koszewski, and Mr. Vanderpool. I don't know if you all saw me just shoot up from my seat there a few minutes ago. I was super excited to get up here and talk to you all tonight.
I thought you were going to be like our first volunteer for the Human Library.
Ask away, ask questions. No.
She'll be available for 3 hours out in the lobby after.
We are thrilled to host our Employee Awards ceremony before you all and to announce and celebrate employees receiving the 2022 Recognition Awards. We will first feature the Years of Service Awards. We'll then transition into departmental awards, where we will invite department directors and leaders to announce and present the honorees. Then we'll announce the Part-Time Employee of the Year, Outstanding Performance of the Year, Full-Time Employee of the Year, Administrator of the Year, and Office and Department of the Year. After all the awards are presented, we would like to request a brief recess so council members can join the recipients for a group photo. With me this evening is Melanie Davis, our Community Relations Director, who will also be emceeing tonight's ceremony.
Thank you, Kate. So let's get started with our Years of Service Awards. A list of all names and their milestone anniversaries will appear on the screen as we announce all the recipients. So starting with the 10-year service awards, this year we have Elizabeth Gaddioli from the court, Kathleen Jacobs from the library, Lamar Kashop from the police department, Lance Stevens from the fire department, Roy Voltaggio from the senior center, and Grace Zacharias from the court.
Receiving the 20-year service awards this year are Mario Bastinelli from the police department, Chad Conover, from the police department, Kenneth Cooper from fire department, Brian DeMink from the police department, Mark Glazewski from the building department, Suji Lombardo from community relations, Brian Kruger from police, Jennifer Lindquist from police, Anthony Roski from police, Donald Rogowski, crossing guard, Jeffrey Saloom, Department of Public Works, Jocelyn Scoggins from the police department, Shannon Swanson from purchasing, Derek Upton from the Public Works Department, and Remy Vergestrate from police, and Robert Wojciechowski from the police department.
And now receiving 25-year service awards this year, we have John Beaupre from the police department, Ryan Brodden from the police department, Richard Clark from the police department, Leona Cross from the senior center, Susie DePlank from the police department, John Farah from the fire department, Colleen Hopper from the police department, Robert Kowalczyk from the police department, Todd Marsh from the Department of Public Works, Kenneth Mercer from the police department, Paul Muskinvan from the police department, Krista Smith from engineering, and George Sorolis from the police department.
Okay, and receiving a 30-year service award this year is Mark Schmidt from the Building Department. Receiving a 35-year service awards this year are Donna Guitar from the Court and Michelle Kaput from the Police Department. Receiving a 45-year service award is, I'm not gonna get the last name pronunciation correct here, is Horst Heinrichs. Thank you, from the Building Department. And for 50 years, receiving the 50-year service award is David Brook from the Court. Let's give these years of service recipients a warm round of applause.
And now we move on to our departmental awards. For the first departmental award, we invite Library Public Services Area Coordinator Karen Stein to come and announce the recipient of the Sterling Heights Public Library Employee of the Year Award.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of City Council, Mr. Vanderpool, and residents. I'm honored tonight to recognize Barbara Pachowski as the library's Employee of the Year. Barbara's been employed as a librarian at the Sterling Heights Public Library for over 19 years. She is a fantastic librarian for a number of reasons. Her creativity with programming is well received by our library patrons. She's created our Saturday Stories program and has also involved in other larger themed programs that she has designed and presented over the years. In addition to leading all of our weekly Storytime programs, Barb recently stepped up to handle all the Toddler Time programs while we were short-staffed. She has also taken on various library collection duties to keep our collections updated while we were bringing on new staff. Barb provides a great customer service that our residents expect, and we are fortunate to have her as a member of our team. Barb has been a tremendous help with our outreach to the schools as well. Not only does she provide summer reading program information to Utica community students as well as Warren Con students, but she also conducts tours. For the past 3 years, Barb has conducted tours for hundreds of students in Warren Consolidated Schools during March's Reading Month and instilling the love of reading for thousands of our youth. Barb has been successful in applying for grants as well, with one of her grant sponsors programs becoming a regular part of our library collection. Her idea was to create smart bags that are STEM-related kits for our youngest patrons. SMART stands for Science, Math, Art, Reading, and Technology. These bags include books, worksheets, and interactive items, all based on themes that caregivers can borrow from the library to work with their children to create a love of reading and science. Barb does not hesitate to step up when needed and is always thinking outside the box to better service our patrons. She is well respected by her coworkers. Barb's dedication to serving our youngest library patrons is amazing. She is an exemplary employee, and we are very fortunate to have her on our staff. Congratulations, Barb.
Yeah, she's there.
Thank you. And now we'd like to welcome to the podium Parks and Recreation Director Kyle Langlois to present this year's Parks and Recreation Full-Time Employee of the Year.
Thank you, Melanie, and good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of council, and all gathered here tonight. As you've seen from your own experience and from previous presentations, the Parks and Recreation Department is fortunate to have a great deal of amazing and dedicated employees that we have on board to carry out our mission of bringing the community together through our parks, our programs, our facilities, and our events. And not surprising, this year's Parks and Recreation Department Full-Time Employee of the Year, Jennifer Rizzo, is no exception. Since starting with the department in August of 2017 as a recreation specialist at the Senior Center, Jennifer instantly fit in with our team and filled the programming and supporting role void that had been in place for a number of years since the recession. Jennifer quickly showed that she was up for the task and has positioned herself as a leading coordinator of programs in the department and around the area. In fact, since she has been with us, we have seen our 50 and older fitness classes grow by over 25%, and she has taken on the role of growing our ever-famous pickleball offerings from drop-in play only to having instructional classes and even our first ever league this past year. Jennifer has also been game to take on many new tasks and really whatever is asked of her, especially as our department has continued to evolve over the past few years. Examples include taking on a significant role with creating the 50-plus post publication instead of contracting it out, conducting the necessary orientations for patrons to use the cardio room that was funded by Recreating Recreation, and helped carry out many COVID-related programs during the pandemic as well. While these roles truly revolve around her everyday job, it speaks to the team player attitude that she embraces and embodies, which makes her shine each and every day. If we are short a bus driver, Jennifer uses her CDL license, hops on a bus, and drives patrons. If we need someone to help supervise music in the park, she always volunteers, especially if she likes the music. And if we need someone to walk around and pick up litter for hours on end, we can always count on Jennifer. I am exceptionally proud, though, of Jennifer for a recent initiative that she took on for the department, which is a true testament to her dedication to our team. New this past year, Teresa Jarzab and I had discussion about collaborating on ways to engage Shaner Tower residents in the city, and more specifically in an effort to provide essential recreation services to these residents. While this could have been a matter of just increasing transportation opportunities to the senior center, Kristen Briggs and I knew we had to do more, and we knew we had the right person for the job, Jennifer. Jennifer has embraced the enhanced role and spends a number of hours at Shaner Towers each month helping to provide programs and events on site, but also being a trusted resource for the residents in an effort to make a better connection to the services that we have and that we are offering right within the walls of the senior center. In turn, we have seen more residents from Shaner Towers participating in events and coming to our building than ever before, and I can confidently attribute that to Jennifer's efforts. In closing, Jennifer Rizzo has had an impact on so many patrons and has been a difference maker in our department and organization for almost 6 years now. Her love for energy drinks, music, dancing, doing whatever it takes to put a smile on a patron's face, and so much more help make her the great employee and human that she is. It is for all of these reasons above and so much more that Jennifer Rizzo is being recognized as the Parks and Recreation Department's 2023 Full-Time Employee of the Year. And I end by saying thank you and congratulations, Jennifer. You can say something, certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for this honor, and I really enjoy working for the city and for the Parks and Rec Department. And if we didn't have such a great team, I don't think it would be such a fun and easy job to accomplish that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle, and congratulations, Jennifer. Now I'd like to welcome up to the podium our Public Works Operations Manager, Eric Skirta, to announce this year's DPW Employees of the Year.
Hello, good evening, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool. I think I'm going to introduce both of our employees of the year, which we have a part-time employee of the year and a full-time employee of the year. So first, I'd like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to present the awards on behalf of the DPW this year. I just want to say I'm lucky to be part of such a large group of talented people. I learn from my coworkers every day, and it's something I truly enjoy about my role here with the city. An employee of the year to me means having complete confidence and knowing that the employee is doing their best every day and has the relentless ability to never attempt anything but what they believe is the right thing to do. It's their willingness to learn, be involved, sometimes getting a little uncomfortable when they understand what's at stake. Reliability, honesty, willing to walk to the beat of their own drum, and general pleasantness are such important qualities to have. Both of the Public Works employees receiving the awards today embody those exact traits among so many more. The leadership team at DPW has had the pleasure of working with each of them, so when the nomination form came through, selecting the individuals for this award was fairly simple. For the DPW Part-Time Employee of the Year Award, Robert Kennedy. Robert, he has been with the department now for 4 years, and in this time, he's been able to make an impact on everyone that he's worked with. I've come to find out that he represents the true meaning of customer service. Customer service comes in many forms. It's not only an external function that we provide for the residents for the city, but it's an internal function as well. He provides support every day for the people who work alongside of him, and he does it in a way that leaves a lasting impression. His even-keel personality and understanding the tasks at hand keeps a smile on everyone's face when he's mentioned. But it's not just his personality that earned the award. Just one example of his work ethic that stands out as DPW General Supervisor Josh Cole recently shared with me is he simply overheard a conversation of one of our refuse field staff members being off. He took it upon himself to integrate the additional tasks and stops into his day without disruption to his regular activities. It may not have seemed like a big deal, but stepping up and providing relief to the division pays dividends to the community and the coworkers. I know when he's here, he makes each and every one of his hours that he spends as effective as possible. So, Robert, thanks for being you. It's my honor to call you my colleague, and I'm looking forward to spending many more years working alongside of you. Congratulations, you deserve this. I don't think Robert's here tonight, so I will accept the award on his behalf. And now for the DPW Full-Time Employee of the Year.
No.
Back.
There.
There he is.
Look at that.
Looks like an original picture from back in the day. So Derek Browning. Derek and I go way back, and I don't think I've ever been able to put into words how much I respect him as a person. But I just want to say, Derek, I'm proud to be standing here, and I'm glad I've been given this opportunity to honor someone whose company I've been able to keep for the better part of my life. Derek and I, we actually went to Bemis Junior High together, so many, many years ago. And it's crazy to think that he's been with the city now for, this is going on his 20th year. Derek, I don't know if I've told you this before, but I've always admired your ability to just stay completely unflappable in any situation. Seeing the way you keep your cool has no doubt kept me and anyone who is in your presence at ease. Derek, you've never wavered from being you. You're a person who sticks by your word, never succumbs to the everyday BS. You always maintain a positive attitude, and you're not afraid to jump in and do the right thing. You clearly put the department's needs before your own by never turning down an after-hours call-in, which we receive many of those, and carrying out the most difficult tasks. One example that sticks out in recent history is when you chose to take on the waterless sweeper when no one else would. It's a complex piece of equipment, but you stuck with it, you took the time to learn it, and made it your own. I know I'm not just speaking for Ken Swartz, our Streets Division Supervisor, when I say this, but you are one of the greatest assets to not only the Streets Division, but the entire department when you lead by example and set the stage for newcomers coming into the organization to be successful. You do big things without making them seem unobtainable. This type of grand action has the ability to affect so many people. It changes the perspective of the kid who is just working here through college to, I want to work here, I can do that. This is the place I want to make my career. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how those baby blue eyes just have the tendency to draw people in. For the managers and directors, there's no better peace of mind than knowing they have someone they can trust and rely on when needed. Derek, I can't thank you enough for everything you do for the DPW and for letting me take the time to get to know you. It's an honor to call you both my colleague and my friend. Congratulations. I can't think of a more fitting recipient for the Full-Time Employee of the Year Award.
Shake his hand.
Thank you so much, Eric, and congratulations to your two employees. Now I'd like to invite up to the podium Fire Chief Kevin Edmond, who will announce this year's Fire Department awards.
Thank you, Melanie. Mayors, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool and Mr. Koszybski. Every year, the fire department nominates two individuals who have gone above and beyond in delivering service to our community while serving as role models to their peers. What does it take to be a good firefighter? There's no formal definition, but like any profession, it takes integrity, trustworthiness, and collaboration. In public safety, it also takes emotional control, especially under stress, and a commitment and a passion for the job, especially in the fire service. It is my pleasure to recognize two individuals tonight who have been chosen by their peers for possessing these qualities. In the past year, the fire department saw a return to normal EMS levels, with many of them occurring at elderly facilities. Earlier this year, the fire department presented a plan to council to curb these calls, and the department appreciates the support that we receive from councils. And one of the people in attendance tonight who's getting an award has helped drastically with that effort. The chosen firefighter of the year is Vito Adamo. Vito has been a member of the department since 2017. He has an excellent judgment, ethics, morals, and values that resonates with our department mission statement. He frequently mentors and takes on leadership roles. He always comes prepared to work and gives his very best every day. He is a very humble person, and unfortunately, he could not be here tonight because of family commitments. So I'm going to accept the award for Vito and give it to him. The second one. Oh, too much. There we go. The Officer of the Year is Lieutenant Scott Wendinsky. Scott has been with the fire department since 2007. Not only is he a paramedic, but he's also a registered nurse. Lieutenant Wendinsky has been a key individual in assisting the fire department in dealing with our increased calls at elderly facilities, helping with the strategic plan presentation to council. Scott is always willing to go above and beyond his duties. His morals, values, and ethics resonate with our department. Lieutenant Wendinsky has worked with the social worker for the city to help residents to be more independent and safe in their environments. Lieutenant Wendinsky also made sure he offers gratitude to others on the team. And I'd like to present this award, and Vito works for Scott. So he's a great leader, and I appreciate that. Yeah. So Scott, if you can come up here.
Thank you, Chief Edmond. And now I'd like to bring up to the podium Police Chief Dale Dwojciechowski to announce the recipients of this year's Police Department Awards.
Thank you very much. We actually have 4 awards at the Police Department: Police Officer of the Year, Command Officer of the Year, Detective of the Year, and Civilian Employee. As you know, we have 185 employees at the Police Department. We are a little city over there with a lot of moving parts, and that's why we have 4 different awards, because these officers do different things. The officer, the command officer, completely different job set, and our detectives do a completely different job, making sure we get prosecution in cases, and that's why we thought it was important. Every year we put out notification for nominations, and this year we got probably 25 people nominated for awards. And then we actually create an entire committee. They sit down, they read every single award, and this award means something. The committee, I don't pick it, the committee picks it, and then they tell me, they come out of the conference room, they say, these are your winners. And I'm going to be reading from the nomination letter saying, because I think it means something. These come from the peers and the people that work with these officers directly. So with that, I'm going to start with our Police Officer of the Year. God, that's a good looking picture. Officer Scott Demink, our Police Officer of the Year. Scott's been with us for 8 years. He has 4 citations, 2 life savings, 4 letters of commendation, and 9 citizen letters. Officer Demink has been involved in a wide range of duties with the Sterling Heights Police Department. These include being a member of the Traffic Safety Bureau, the Bicycle Patrol Instructor, member of the Quick Response Team, that's our opiate overdose response team. The Honor Guard, the NFTO, a training officer, a patrol rifle program that he's involved with, an OWI team, which is our drunk driving team, which specializes in drunk driving arrests, and he's also one of our go-to drone operators. So Scotty does it all. I believe there are many qualities that embody a good police officer, some including having the ability to interact with the public and build positive relationships. Other include conducting strict enforcement activity to reduce crime and apprehend criminals. Lastly, being empathic and doing the right thing when no one is watching. And the person who wrote him up, Officer Kashat, said, I have observed each and every one of these traits with Officer Demink, and I concur. Officer Demink is continuously the highest ticket writer in the agency, totaling approximately 1,435 tickets in 2022. So stay away from Scott if you're speeding.
Watch out.
Officer Demink was instrumental in locating an assault with intent to murder suspect that ultimately took his life. This happened, if you know, last year during Sterling Fest, this all went on. He rushed from Sterling Fest, drove to the scene, utilized a drone, which in turn quickly located the suspect in a dumpster enclosure, and it did end hours-long standoff, and the person took his own life there. But that was Officer Demink leaving one detail to get to another detail, a whole nother set of tools, kept our officers safe, and we used the drone to see over the dumpster wall, so no one had to put their life on the line there. So again, great job with that case, Scott. Officer Demink conducts diligent follow-ups with every case that he handles within the city, utilizing sources that allow him to locate and identify suspects, which turn into aids for the Detective Bureau and help conduct follow-up for investigations. Officer Demink is routinely the first point of contact with our drug unit and our surveillance unit when they need a vehicle stop or a subject apprehended. This is specifically due to his willingness to always help and get involved. On his off time, Officer Demink is a police mountain bike instructor, recently became a pistol shotgun instructor. Officer Demink utilizes free time to now be available to train officers of this department. Officer Demink maintains a professional appearance and also ensures his vehicle is represented well for this department. While working in the QRT capacity, that's our drug overdose response team, Officer Demink was instrumental in locating and assisting with treatment of a subject who was abusing alcohol. This subject will later come back to Sterling Heights Police Department and tell her story involving Officer Demink's contact. This show of empathy and resilience in helping her get into treatment. The subject is now alcohol-free and on a path to recovery. Officer Demink maintains a positive attitude and is a known leader on his shift. As a parent, Officer Demink cares about his agency and is continuously working to ensure the image and reputation of the Sterling Heights Police Department. With that, Officer Demink, congratulations.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to our Command Officer of the Year. Another good-looking guy. Jeez. All right, our Command Officer of the Year this year, for 2022, is Sergeant Jamie Dubé. Jamie's been with us for 22 years, and Jamie's list of accomplishments is quite impressive. 17 citations. He's saved 4 different lives here in the city. He has 9 letters of commendation, 5 different awards, including Officer of the Year in 2013. So he's the Officer of the Year and Command Officer of the Year, and 7 citizen letters, and every single one of them is deserving. This nomination letter starts off with a great quote. A leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. And that does describe Jamie with his performance every single day at roll call and on the road. Sergeant Dubé performs in a professional, empathic manner on every run and citizen interaction that I have witnessed. Sergeant Dubé's knowledge of the law, ability to reasonably apply the rules of the law and deciding proper outcomes reinforces the traits that a good supervisor must possess. Sergeant Dubé maintains a professional appearance, is constantly encouraging other officers to do their best and perform better than the day before. Sergeant Dubé consistently self-initiates numerous felony and misdemeanor-related arrests to include 189 citations issued in 2022. That is over 100 more than the previous year and the second highest for command officers in the entire police department. So he is a boss that's on the road doing work. He arrests bad guys and he writes tickets and he watches over all of his guys. On his off time, Sergeant Dubé runs a support group and encourages other officers and members of the community to achieve their fullest potential. Sergeant Dubé was a representative on the jail committee that was given the monumental task of overhauling a 55-year process of housing prisoners and working to change the process as the jail was preparing to close. Without Sergeant Dubé's insight, I do not believe this process would have ran as effectively. Sergeant Dubé also was instrumental in developing the OWI task force team. Sergeant Dubé developed the program and streamlined it to allow more officers to become comfortable with arresting drunk drivers with the aid of experienced officers assisting them, which allowed them to learn, grow, and become better officers of this agency. Sergeant Dubé leads by example, is respected among the rank and file. Officers seek Sergeant Dubé for guidance, support, and knowledge. Sergeant Dubé will not shy away from correcting behavior while at the same time coaching the employee to do better. Sergeant Dubé has been involved directly with two major incidents in 2022. One of them was a life-saving that he had earlier in the year, and the second was a stolen vehicle, was turned into a concealed weapon charge and felony warrants. Throughout 2022, Sergeant Dubé was noted for numerous OWI, narcotics, and DWLS arrests, all while not only interacting with these subjects, but also offering them resources to help beat their addiction. Sterling Heights would not continue to be the safest city in Michigan, large city, without Sergeant Dubé's efforts. Sergeant Dubé is routinely the first command officer on scene and immediately ensures that critical scenes are handled appropriately and with dignity. It should be noted that this is the third year in a row that Sergeant Dubé has been nominated. I believe it is clear that although he was not selected, he continues to outperform every single year. With that, congratulations, Sergeant Dubé. Okay, moving on to our Detective of the Year. And this year, that award goes to Detective Natalie Abram, and it is spring break week, and she had not better things to do, but more interesting, I think. So she did make a video acceptance. We're going to play that here in a second. But with that, Detective Natalie Abram, 21 years with the police department, 16 citations, 3 letters of commendation, 12 awards, including a Chiefs Award and Officer of the Year in 2015, and 9 citizen letters. Detective Abram started in 2002, and with her 21 years of service, has been in operations, investigations, and been the lead in our crisis negotiation team. Detective Abrams' time in the Detective Bureau has been one that has seen her represent the department in the utmost way. She is the go-to person for the court to call whenever they need assistance. She has a great relationship with the prosecutor's office, and they call her as a liaison. And many bureaus within the department rely on her knowledge. Detective Abram has handled numerous high-profile cases that garnered media attention, including a half-hour exclusive with Channel 4. She has testified in homicides and played a role in putting violent criminals in prison for years. I would venture to say if we added up all the years of prison time, she has put people in for the most years possibly of anyone who's ever worked for SHPD, and that's not an understatement. She leads the Detective Bureau in most cases assigned year after year. Detective Abram will turn a case that most people would close out in hours into weeks of work. All of those hours sometimes turn into just a simple misdemeanor charge. To some, that may seem like a waste of time, but to Detective Abram, she looks at each individual case as a big case to the person who made the report. When a person has had their possessions stolen, a loved one is missing, or in crisis, Detective Abram will not stop until there's a resolution. Outside of the Detective Bureau, Detective Abram is very active with our crisis negotiation team. She is the leader of the team, and as a team leader, she organizes training for the Sterling Heights negotiators, as well as helping other agencies. She has helped other agencies start training and even helped organize her team from the ground up. She takes it upon herself to write training scenarios for the special response team as well. Officers are sometimes rewarded for their diligent work on a specific case, but in this instance, Detective Abrams should be awarded for being diligent all year, every year. To sum up, Detective Abram, she has an unsolved homicide from 6 years ago. She still works on it every single week. The interesting thing is the family brings her in food. They call her for life advice, and they truly, in their heart, know that she's giving her all. And I've seen her work on that case, which drives her nuts, but she works on it every single week when she has open hours. When cases lose their spotlight, they still burn for the detectives and still mean something, especially for Detective Abram. She makes a difference in her victims' lives, victims' families' lives, and is even respected by individuals she has put in prison. Without a doubt, Detective Abram is consistent, hardworking, dependable, respected, and tenacious, and deserves to be the Detective of the Year. And with that, we'll go into the video acceptance.
No.
Good evening, everyone. I first want to apologize for choosing to be on a beach in Florida over attending the City Council meeting. I at least promised to bring home some sunshine and warmth. In all sincerity, though, I would like to thank Mayor Taylor, Mr. Vanderpool, City Council, and Chief Wojciechowski for this honor. I am truly humbled to have been selected as Detective of the Year. I appreciate Lieutenant Muscovin for taking the time to nominate me. I am blessed to work alongside many talented and hardworking detectives. We work as a team, and this is as much their award as it is mine. Our work never stops, so it is rewarding to be recognized for what we do on a daily basis. Serving the citizens of Sterling Heights is a passion of mine, and I strive to make a difference in their lives when they are often facing a difficult time. It's an honor to serve them and an honor to accept this award. Thank you and happy Easter.
All right, and moving on to our Civilian of the Year, and in true fashion, Michelle Kaput is one of our secretaries in the Detective Bureau. I didn't even know she was here. I panicked at the last second, and someone said she was sitting in the back left corner, because that's Michelle. She's always sitting in the back left corner. And she's been with the city for many, many years, and Michelle, I just found this out. She started with Sterling Heights in 1987 in the dispatch. I didn't know that, Michelle. Then you transferred over to the library for a year, worked in the library, didn't know that. Then she came to the police department in 1989. So Michelle's been around for a long, long time, and she has done some unbelievable work for us. And especially in the Detective Bureau, she was our go-to person in this ward, is well deserving. And with that, I'm going to read her nomination letter. The employees of Sterling Heights pride themselves in providing thorough and comprehensive service to the citizens and visitors that they serve. With the quantity and quality of employees working for the city of Sterling Heights, many could be nominated for Civilian of the Year. I believe Michelle Kaput had another year of hard work, dedication, consistency, and persistence that makes her stand out, and she should be awarded for her hard work as Civilian of the Year. Michelle has worked with the city police department since September of 1989. Over 33 years of service to the department is amazing, but the way Michelle carries herself on a daily basis is what separates her. Michelle has worked in records, operations, special services, the drug unit, and investigations. And I noticed this too, on her personnel file, from 2010 to 2020, it just says perfect attendance, perfect attendance, perfect attendance, and then they ran out of lines. So I'm just assuming you just always had perfect attendance. I'm not sure if that's a fact, but she never misses work. She's there every single day, so I just thought that was pretty funny. I think there was no more room to write it. Departments have downsized, and secretaries and investigations is definitely one of them. In the past year, Michelle was in investigations by herself. We used to have 3 secretaries, 4 secretaries up there, and for a long time, especially after COVID, she was by herself, did everything as a one-person show back there, and I appreciate that. Not only was she by herself, she had to learn many new tasks and ways of doing the job that she has done for 30 years. The prosecutor's office stopped sending prosecutors to the Sterling Heights Police Department. This meant Michelle would have to check with the detectives on a daily basis, send over a packet to the prosecutor's office, and then type up the warrant so they could do court arraignments. It added more work for Michelle, and it was an ever-evolving process because of the new prosecutor and new court administrator. Michelle is responsible for maintaining case statistics for over 20 detectives. She compiles the stats and sends them out monthly. The stats and monthly logs are important because they can assist with allocation of resources. On top of typing warrants, compiling statistics, checking logs, and answering the phone, Michelle, working the front counter, does it all, including all the forfeiture paperwork for our narcotics unit and filing all of our federal financial reports. The narcotics unit has continually set records in forfeiture, which means even more work for Michelle. There are many rules and laws regarding forfeiture, and Michelle is very efficient. I couldn't agree more. There have been constant change in investigations regarding captains, prosecutors, procedures, court administrators, but Michelle comes to work every single day and never slows down. She is very pleasant to work with, does not complain, that she has never complained about anything, never has drama, is personable, but the best way to describe her is consistent and reliable. Without a doubt, she makes many of us look good because she does behind-the-scenes work for us every day. She should be commended for her job and awarded for Civilian of the Year, and I couldn't agree more. With that, Michelle Kaput.
And for our last departmental award tonight, I would like to invite up Chief Judge Stephen Sorosky from 41A District Court to announce tonight's court awardees.
Good evening. On behalf of the court, I am proud to be here, and most importantly, thank you, council, Mayor Taylor, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszybski, for this pleasure and privilege, because we have unfortunately, the part-time employee could not make it tonight, so we're going to pass on that, but we will accept her reward. Jacqueline has done an amazing job, and more importantly, because of her hard work, she is now full-time. So, but we're still honoring her. She's done an amazing job for us. And Ms. Koski, why weren't you on the screen tonight? I'm just curious. 30 years, correct?
Little more than that.
A little more than 30, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm starting my 25th, so I'm starting to catch up with you. But no, what a tremendous achievement. I'd like to introduce to you tonight our court administrator, Ms. Ratio, and our court clerk, Ms. Smith. They've been here about a year now? Yep, both about a year now. Been tremendous assets for us. But I'd like to have them present the award.
Good evening, council. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszybski. I always kill it. Tonight, we are recognizing in person Roberta Rybicki. Roberta has been the rock of our civil department. If you don't have a chance to know what the civil department and the court does, Roberta's main function this past year was handling our landlord-tenant cases. As you know, census-wise, Sterling Heights has a large variety of rental properties, whether they be commercial or residential, and within those are people that don't possibly pay their rent, don't abide by their contracts, and when the case is needed to get filed, generally in stacks like this size, Roberta was the one that would get those while we had another employee out on medical leave. Roberta has been a rock for the landlord-tenant division because she was the landlord-tenant division. During COVID especially, if you're unaware, I don't know how anyone could be unaware, but there was a moratorium on evictions, and that recently has been lifted, and that makes our caseload even higher. Roberta has been there and has come through with just a great personality, a great community outreach person, because when the people call in, she's on keel, she's never rude. Her personality with the public is just what you want when you come into a new court, as Judge mentioned I have. All of my staff that I now have, I couldn't be prouder of. but Roberta definitely earned this award this past year. So I would like to bring her up and hand this over to her. Right. And just so, as Judge touched on with Jacqueline, she was unable to be here today during the meeting due to some personal commitments, but she has been the voice of the traffic division. I don't know about you, but when someone is calling the traffic division, generally they're not that happy. Jacqueline has taken those phone calls and turned it around for the people on the other end. She's been understanding, she's been very compassionate, and she's been patient. And for someone answering the phones in the traffic division on a part-time basis, I couldn't have been more pleased than again to have had her start with us last year. She started in May of 2022, was part-time, and was recently promoted to full-time. So we will accept this for her and present it to her tomorrow at work. So thank you all very much for this opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Judge Shrowski, and thank you to all of our department directors and supervisors for being here to present your awards. Let's give one more congratulations to all of our departmental award recipients this evening. And for the last segment of our employee awards ceremony, we're going to move on to the recognition awards. It's important to note that each of these award recipients were nominated by their coworkers and friends, as I think some of the leaders have mentioned. These individuals have demonstrated hard work, dedication, going above and beyond, all while being gracious and adding positivity to the workplace. Let's invite up our Recreation Superintendent, Mark DeSanto, to present and announce the Part-Time Employee of the Year.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor and members of council. I'm very fortunate to be up front of council and everyone in attendance tonight to award Adam Schultes as Part-Time Employee of the Year. When you look at the size of our city and the number of part-time employees we have that offer so much to our residents through their hard work and dedication to the city, you will quickly realize the honor and accomplishment in receiving the Part-Time Employee of the Year award from the city of Sterling Heights. Adam has worked for our department since 2015. He's a dedicated, reliable, trusting employee who works in many capacities within our department as a facility site coordinator. His primary location is a facility site coordinator at the community center. However, Adam has also worked at the Dodge Park Ice Rink and fills in at the splash pad as a site coordinator. You'll also find Adam working at our special events during the year, such as Sterling Christmas, Sterling Frights, as well as Sterling Fest. Adam's skill set ranges from operating our RecPro software for registration, customer service, driving the Zamboni, to operating the filters for the splash pad. One example of Adam's leadership happened during the winter at Dodge Park Ice Rink. We had a major situation with the ice where snow blew on top of the ice during the night and continued to accumulate. Adam was able to navigate the situation, organize staff, and was able to clear the snow off the ice and get the ice conditioned in time to open so residents could skate. Adam's best quality is definitely his work ethic. Adam does not just work for the Sterling Heights Parks and Recreation Department. Adam also works 30 hours a week at Uno's Pizzeria and Grill in Sterling Heights as a cook. Adam works many weeks, 6 to 7 days a week, between working for our department and Uno's Pizzeria, and does not complain about it at all. And I can definitely tell you as a superintendent, when you get part-time availability, sometimes it looks a little scary. You don't know how you're going to get things covered, but Adam's availability is always open. The only occasion he might ask is for the University of Michigan football game every once in a while. And I am a Spartan fan, so I don't honor all those. But him and his dad, Jeff, are big fans. So Adam usually is at the forefront when any employee needs assistance with his or her work. He takes his role of a team leader seriously. His leadership skills and positive attitude are evident on how he leads. Adam's qualities represents all that is good in our department. So can you please help me welcome up to the podium Adam Schultes so I can present him with the honor of Part-Time Employee of the Year.
Just want to say thank you to everybody in the Department of Parks and Recreation. Makes the job really easy, and I love coming there every day. Thank you.
Okay, and next up, we have a very special video introduction featuring Building Maintenance Superintendent Todd McCovis and Recreation Superintendent Mark DeSanto to announce the recipient for this year's Outstanding Performance of the Year.
This is a good award for Charlie because Charlie's the guy that always goes out of the way to help everybody out. It doesn't matter if it's in this department or other departments, or who the person is, residents or staff. Charlie's the guy that gives the shirt off his back to help them out. He's always willing to go the extra mile to complete tasks and jobs, and just an all-around good guy that is well deserved of this award. So congratulations, Charlie.
Charlie, I want to congratulate you on winning the Outstanding Performance Award. During your time that you worked in Parks and Grounds, I quickly realized your attention to detail to make sure daily checks and repairs were done right. Based on your previous experience working for the Harper Woods School District, it was clear to me you had an understanding of community and the importance of making sure fields or equipment were maintained so events or programs could run at their best without any issues. Now you are doing the building checks and repairs for the community center, and you are doing the checks and repairs with the same high standards as you did the parks. But the best part of you, Charlie, is your attitude. You always greet coworkers with a smile, stop in their office or cubicle to say hello, and every once in a while, you will tell us one of your jokes. Charlie, congratulations again on winning the Outstanding Performance Award. It could have not gone to a better employee, coworker, and person.
Let's give a round of applause to Charlie. Mr. Vanderpool will present Charlie's award. If we can get Charlie to come up.
Well, thank you, Kate, but Mayor and Council, before we do that, I'd like to make just a couple of comments about Charlie. First, true to form, last night, it's around 6:30, I believe, right, Charlie? He was going around the building and checking on offices and making sure everything was okay. Now, the building was empty, but I happened to be there, and Charlie stopped in and we started chit-chatting. And, one thing that really I admire about Charlie is he's always so pleasant, and he always brings a smile to your face. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. He's just a really pleasant, very high-spirited person, and I always enjoy not only talking to him, but just seeing him, passing him in the halls. Always brings a smile to my face. But I asked him about the award, and he seemed really excited about it. And I said, well, certainly you're bringing some family members, right? And he said, oh, of course, I'm going to bring my wife, Donna, because she thinks we may have gotten it wrong. So before we invite Charlie up, I thought maybe it'd be appropriate to invite Donna up, because it's not too late to reconsider this, I suppose. But all kidding aside, I'm super honored to present Charlie with the Outstanding Performance of the Year Award. And Charlie, if you don't speak, we're going to ask Donna to speak.
Well,
thanks, everybody. Thank you. I am honored, I'm humbled, and now I'm embarrassed. Yeah, my wife doesn't think that you got this right, but thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right, and next, we'd like to invite our IT Director, Steve Dion, to the podium to present and announce the Full-Time Employee of the Year.
Thank you, Kate. Good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of City Council, Mr. Kazubski, and Mr. Vanderpool. I am very honored to be here tonight to present the Full-Time Employee of the Year Award. I want to start off by recognizing the strong support the Information Technology Department has received from City Council and City Administration. IT has not only received strong financial support to achieve our goals and initiatives, we have also received an additional staff member this past year. All of the staff members in the Information Technology Department are dedicated, hardworking employees that are deserving of this award. Louis Gardella has been with the city and the Information Technology Department for 7 years. Louis has been an outstanding employee that leads our public safety and security divisions. Louis has improved so many aspects of the Information Technology Department through creative thinking, excellent troubleshooting, and a desire to improve technology for all employees. Some of the major accomplishments Louis has completed in this last year include upgrading the MDCs and modems in the police vehicles, revamping group policy, deploying the state-of-the-art security software to endpoints, creating and managing the WatchGuard, dashboard, and body camera system, and rebuilding the public safety software infrastructure. Louis is always available to help a coworker or jump on any project. He has a way of dealing with end users that makes everyone comfortable. Louis is extremely dedicated, often putting in long hours to keep operations running smoothly. In the last year, Louis has completed his cybersecurity analyst certification, his security analytics professional certification, and has started his master's degree in cybersecurity. Louis has a passion for technology, but when he's not working, he enjoys video games, movies, mining for cryptocurrencies, riding his electric scooter, playing paintball, photography, and spending time with his family and his girlfriend. Louis always has a positive attitude, he never complains, and he's willing to help on any task. Louis makes my job so much easier, and I am proud to call him a friend. The city is very lucky to have IT specialist Louis Gardella, and he's very deserving of the Full-Time Employee of the Year Award. Congratulations, Louis.
Yes, actually, I prepared. If I can unlock my phone. Well. Thank you, Steve, City Council, and City Management for this award, and I'm honored to receive this tonight. While I can't believe it's really been 7 years since I started, it just seems like yesterday. When Steve told me in my interview, and after I got hired, my primary duty was going to be police and fire when I first started out. It was a dream come true. and it's been an honor working with fire and police on a daily basis since. I couldn't have done this without Steve's great leadership, mentoring, and the rest of the IT department. This is my second family outside of home and look forward to working with them each and every day. I would like to thank my parents, Lou and Ava Gardella, who are here tonight, as well as my sister Maria, brother-in-law Mac, and my fiancée Kelly, that aren't here tonight, for supporting me in my career and choices along my journey. Without them, I wouldn't be here tonight. It is an honor and privilege, alongside working with everybody in the city, and I thank you very much.
Don't leave that.
Okay, and now the next award is for Administrator of the Year. So we would like to invite Mr. Vanderpool back up to the podium to present and announce this year's recipient.
I just got to say, IT has the best videos of the year, too.
Thank you again, Kate, and thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm super honored to present this award. It is a great pleasure of mine to be able to do this. I'm not sure if the individual knew she was getting it, but I know that she is very well deserving. Melanie Riska's career in municipal government began in 2002 as an election assistant for the city of Hamtramck. Since that time, she has served as city clerk for Hamtramck, deputy city clerk for Grosse Pointe Woods, assistant director of elections for Wayne County, and thankfully, she was appointed by the mayor and the city council in Sterling Heights as city clerk in 2017, and she has gotten a lot done in that period of time. During her time as city clerk, right here in our great city, Melanie has been instrumental in developing all sorts of innovative changes. And let me just highlight a few of these. She has streamlined, along with her team, and automated the process of more than 200 FOIA requests that come in and more than 200 licenses annually. She and her team have implemented new election equipment, which I know the City Council is very aware of, in 6 weeks just prior to an election, flawlessly, without any glitches. She's streamlined all of our precincts, 45 precincts, and absentee voter board, and among many other election reporting procedures and innovations. She's worked with various ethnic communities throughout the city to recruit new election workers, especially during times when we had some pretty severe labor shortages in terms of election workers. She's implemented new software systems, modernizing the city's record keeping, which is going to be expanded citywide very soon. She's innovated the new business licensing system that was implemented a couple of years ago. I'd like to say it went flawlessly, but it went very well, and it was a very difficult project, and it worked so well because of Melanie and her team. She's administered numerous public education initiatives that went before the voters, including Safe Streets, that was approved by the voters by a wide margin 2 times, and the 4 and 400 initiative that was approved by the voters just a couple of years ago, which also passed by a very wide margin, and not to mention the transformative $50 million reinvestment in the city of Sterling Heights through the Recreating Recreation Initiative. Those public education efforts were robust, they were meaningful, and highly successful, in large part because of our city clerk, Melanie Riska. Recently, the city clerk's office began issuing passports, and to date has issued over 2,500 passports. What's really impressive about this is everyone that comes in is very satisfied and highly complimentary of the entire process. Now, most of the people, about 40%, are Sterling Heights residents, but many came from all over the city of Detroit, Troy, Southfield, Farmington Hills, all over the area, having this great experience in Sterling Heights because of our city clerk. But I could go on and on and on. Melanie's probably going to hit the timer button here any second and praising her accomplishments. But let's hear what some others have to say about Melanie. And this comes from retired Grosse Pointe Shores city manager Mark Wollenweber, who offered the following. I had to cut some of this out. Melanie has shown great leadership on many levels, from counties to cities. She is regarded as a strong leader and is often called upon to speak before groups, including most recently the American Society for Public Administration. She's made presentations all over the state. She's highly regarded and does a great job with those. But this one I found incredibly interesting. This came from not a state association, not a state official, but it came from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And here's what their leader had to say about Melanie. It takes years of experience and professional training to help run Michigan's 4th largest city, arguably third, Sterling Heights City Clerk Melanie Riska is a powerhouse manager. So let me read that one more time. I read this countless times last night. I thought it was a great quote. Sterling Heights City Clerk Melanie Riska is a powerhouse manager. That's impressive. And from the nominator of tonight's award, Melanie is a leader whose professionalism, dedication, attention to detail, customer service skills, and most of all, team-building practices that should be benchmarked across the entire organization. We should do that. And I think you'd be the person to lead that effort. She is a great mentor and always will spare a minute to answer questions, give advice, inspire, talk us off the ledge, that's include me a couple times, even though she doesn't have any spare minutes. She truly understands what it is to be a great leader, walks the talk day in and day out, and that came from Megan Ahern, who works very closely with Megan and has worked many elections with Melanie, and she knows. And I could not agree with her more. As city manager, I'm honored to work among the most talented leadership team in the municipal business, including our superstar, Melanie Riska. Again, I could go on and on. But please join me in congratulating Melanie Riska as Administrator of the Year.
It's beautiful. I get very emotional. I don't like to be the center of attention. I'm going to try not to, but it is an honor to receive an award. And I appreciate all the nice things that everybody said. But at the end of the day, sorry. Let me collect myself for a second. I was very surprised to hear that I had won this. I actually had a conversation with Megan today, and I said, so you're the one who I have to thank for forcing me to get up in front of everybody and say some words, because again, I don't like to necessarily be the center of attention. I like to, put my head down and get my job done and build my team, which, speaking of which, I have a couple of my team members here in the audience today, Judy McHale and Chelsea Santoro, the newest member of our team. I can say that I would not be here where I am today. The clerk's office would not be where we are today if it weren't for those amazing people, and the team just, putting in their all and giving all their effort. And I'm very proud and honored to be able to lead such an amazing team for an amazing city. So thank you.
Congratulations, Melanie. So to cap off this year's Employee Awards ceremony, Mr. Vanderpool will also be announcing the 2022 Office/Department of the Year.
Thank you again, Kate. And thank you again, Mayor and Council. I'm especially honored once again to present this award. By the way, you all look very different from this vantage point. I mean that as a compliment. Public Works includes a broad range of services provided to us every single day, including responding to snow emergencies, obviously 24/7, storm damage 24/7, making sure water and sewer infrastructure is sufficient to provide clean water to us and safe sanitation treatment 24/7, beautifying our medians and rights-of-way, and making sure our police and fire departments and other departments' vehicles are working and able to respond to emergencies as necessary. Without the dedicated DPW workers behind the scenes, and they always champion the fact that they work quietly behind the scenes. They don't want to be the center of attention, but they should be. Without their effort, we would not enjoy the quality of life that we all enjoy in this great city. And that goes for our residents and businesses alike. But what exactly do these unsung heroes do? Some of it's obvious, but I thought the metrics were quite impressive. They maintain over 300 vehicles and heavy equipment every day. Imagine that. These are pieces of equipment that are out on the roads every single day. They oversee a refuse collection program consisting of over 41,000 stops. And while a contractor helps out with that, there's a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that system goes flawlessly. They ensure that over 3,000 tons of recyclable material are diverted from the waste stream. They apply, on average, 7,000 tons of salt to the roadways throughout the winter, along with plowing roadways all the time. Most of the time while we're asleep, we never know, but they do it and they take great pride in it. They sweep thousands of miles of road annually. In fact, they're going to be starting that up in just a couple of weeks. Not only neighborhood roads, but our major arterial roads as well. They replace on average 150 signs annually. They respond to over 11,000 customer service requests annually. They maintain over 1,000 miles, imagine that, over 1,000 miles of water main and sanitary lines across the city 24/7. I mentioned they oversee the rights of way, also pruning of our trees in the medians and so on. They test and maintain hundreds of fire hydrants annually. They inspect over 1,000 retention and replace retention basins annually. They respond to 12,000 missed dig stakeouts for various construction projects every single year. Most impressively, this year the department has spearheaded the replacement of over 40,000 water meters that were 50 years old in almost all cases. In addition, the department has helped coordinate a new innovative smart water portal, which I mentioned earlier this evening. The new system detects leaks, immediately saving customers hundreds of dollars. These measures have kept Sterling Heights water rates, as you know, very low, as I mentioned earlier. In addition, the department has completed a new state-of-the-art facility. All of you have been through it. Some of the community has, but it's so much a state-of-the-art facility that other communities are coming to it from across the state to conduct their training. The new facility is highly energy efficient, reduces work comp claims, has training rooms, break rooms, showers, an exercise center, and it's really quite impressive, and they deserve it. It certainly increased morale and productivity. But here again, I could go on and talk about the great work they do. You all know this, and so do many of the residents. But let's hear what some of the residents have said. Erica Wagner said, "Thank you, simply, for a great job!" Exclamation point. This came from John Lamana, who said, "The Public Works Department is awesome. I called them about a large tree limb that had fallen, and within 2 hours, they had it removed. I love living in Sterling Heights." 3 exclamation points. I especially enjoyed the last line. And then this one from one of our council members, Barb Zarko, who said, "In the early morning hours of March 2nd at 1 a.m., I don't imagine you got much sleep that night, I experienced the sound of rushing water outside the house. It took minutes to report the problem through our dispatch center, but it was close to 2 a.m. when Brian Geldof showed up." Now, that's a pretty quick response time at 1 o'clock in the morning to be at someone's house within an hour to start working on a water main break. Brian explained the problem, turned the water off, made arrangements for Consumers Energy to mark the gas main, made contact with the excavation company. I was grateful to see a friendly face and admired his leadership throughout the day. It was evident that Brian and the others that helped him loved their jobs and wanted to help in all ways that they could. That is how they do their job. Doesn't matter if it's an elected official or any one of us. If you have a problem, anytime, 24/7, a Public Works Department's going to be there within the hour. They're going to start working on the problem and have it solved. What community can you get that sort of response time? That's incredible. I want to highlight the Department of Public Works mission statement because they all the employees put together the mission statement. Provide high-quality maintenance of the city's public works infrastructure in an economic and environmentally responsible manner while preserving and enhancing quality of life, health, aesthetics, and public safety. The City of Sterling Heights Public Works Department will continue to be a department that functions with a high level of professionalism, efficiency, and delivery of exceptional customer service. And the statement goes on to read, to do so, we will be characterized by sharing information with residents and employees on an ongoing basis, working as a team that functions cooperatively and focuses on achieving goals together, developing a well-trained staff that's accountable to each other and the residents we serve, and to deliver quality performance. And this, I think, is really most important, which they live and breathe every day, building an atmosphere of respect, integrity, and trust. These are the guiding principles leading to one of the highest performing public works departments in the business. So this evening, we recognize the Department of Public Works and the 101 dedicated employees for not only fulfilling the mission, but doing so by going above and beyond every day, every storm, every emergency, forgoing family dinners, holidays, church, and even some rest and relaxation. So please help me recognize this great department, the Department of Public Works, our best in class this year. Thank you. And Eric Sturda, our operations manager, is here to accept the award. Speaking of emergencies, I hope we don't have one tomorrow with the weather prediction, but I know you guys are ready.
I'm sure we may. We are ready. I wrote a short statement here. When it's all on paper, it sounds pretty great, right? The first thing I'd like to say is this is definitely a surprise. I respect all of the departments within the city that make Sterling Heights a great place to live and work. Police, fire, information technology, parks and recreation, library, community development, community relations, the administration team, the HR team. We all have our unwavering work ethic and drive to continuously do the right thing for the people that we serve. So thank you to my colleagues for always raising that bar. You know, the DPW has gone through a few changes over the past years, and we owe that to everybody in this room. You know, some of those outside changes you can see very easily. New equipment, vehicles. We've added a couple of positions, a safety supervisor, a maintenance supervisor, and of course, we finally completed the expansive reconstruction of the facility that we report to day in and day out. But I truly believe it's not the changes that are visible that are making us stand out, but it's the consistency of leadership that we've been able to embrace. The consistency has helped us build a cohesive team, and our director, Mike Moore, continues to empower his employees to not only decide, but act on those decisions with confidence in knowing that he supports how we handle our day-to-day responsibilities. Without true leadership like that, our individual impacts would be far less. I can honestly say I enjoy working with my colleagues and I respect the products that they produce. Our field unit, our clerical staff, our supervisory staff has some of the hardest working people I've ever met, and we all still learn from each other every day. Not only that, but we do respect each other and their area of expertise. If this mix continues as is, I believe that what you're seeing now is only the beginning, and we will continue to develop our professional standings among one of the best places to work and build our lives. So with that, I thank you for the honor of selecting the Department of Public Works as the Department of the Year. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
picture outside.
Kate, there's one on the table, too.
Oh, thank you. All right, I'll pass that off
Those the
to
holders?
you. That's okay. Okay, I don't know what happened to it. Okay.
You guys can fix it, right?
Hope so.
Let's give another big round of applause to all the recipients this evening. As we wrap up our recognition ceremony, we would like to thank you, Mayor Taylor, the members of City Council, Mr. Koszybski and Mr. Vanderpool, for your time and continued support of our employees. Each of the recipients announced this evening are well-deserving, and each exemplify our continued efforts and passion in making Sterling Heights the wonderful community that it is. I would also like to acknowledge and thank our community relations team, as each year they do put in a lot of work into this event and coordinate it to make it a success. Melanie, thank you to you and your entire team for all of their efforts and dedication with this event.
And thank you, Kate, for being my partner on this event every year, and congratulations once again to all of tonight's recipients. At this time, we would like to request a brief recess, if we may, so that council members can join us in the lobby for a group photo with all of tonight's awardees. And if we can do that, that concludes tonight's presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Davis. If you don't mind, give us 1 or 2 minutes so we can pass the resolution that we have tonight. Council, we do have a suggested action.
Mayor Taylor?
Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski.
Thank you. Resolved to congratulate and thank all of the employees recognized for years of service and outstanding performance in 2022.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Nope, just very happy to have all of them be recognized for their great work, and I extend my own personal congratulations, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Sarowski. I do want to say on behalf of all of the residents of Sterling Heights, we brag about our community all the time, and I think the 7 of us up here get to take a lot of the credit, and we could not get that without the work done by our full-time, our part-time employees, the people that work for the city of Sterling Heights. We're just incredibly grateful for you, for all the work that you do. I can't believe that I get to be a part of this team. I really can't. It's incredible, and I've been blessed to go all around the country and talk with mayors from every corner of this great country, and I honestly don't believe that that I have another counterpart around the country that has a team like we do. So thank you so much. All of the award recipients, very well deserved, and to everyone else, keep up the great work. So one more huge round of applause for all of them. Council, anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And we will stand in recess for about 5 to 10 minutes to go out and take a couple pictures and congratulate them one more time. So we'll be in recess for about 5 minutes. All right, calling the meeting back to order. We will move on to the next item on our agenda tonight, which is the consent agenda with the omission of item M. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on the consent agenda? Mr. Orchada? Did I put, Orchada? That probably wasn't right either, but my apologies. It's been a while since we've seen you.
It's been a while. I've been a little preoccupied. I got some new job, and so I'm living life good. I just had one quick question. Is the joint meeting for item L, is that open to public? Okay, question answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the consent agenda? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda tonight is a consideration item, and this is to consider a first amendment to amended and restated planned unit development agreement for the PUD development of 7.85 acres of land situated on the west side of Shaner Road, south of Hall Road, PPUD 21-0001. We have a presentation from members of our planning department, Mr. Ryan Fox and Alexis Richards. Mr. Fox.
How's everybody doing tonight? I know we weren't the people you were expecting, but
Do you have any doctorate degrees?
Any titles we have to use?
So we've already had a long, wonderful night, so we'll try to keep this brief. Tonight we're going to be discussing, once again, PPUD 21-0001, which is just south of Hall Road on the west side of Shaner. Give you a brief overview. The first time you saw this case was back in the summer of 2021. Is an apartment development, like I said, not far from Lakeside Circle. And the applicant is looking to amend the PUD agreement to allow for a total of 4 internally illuminated wall signs. So under the existing PUD agreement, there are 2 freestanding ground-mounted signs on the site, one of which services the shopping center that's to the south of the development. And there's 1 internally illuminated identification sign on the eastern facade. It's about 134 square feet. This would face Shaner and further to the east, Lakeside Circle. The applicant is proposing the addition of 3 additional signs. You can see one on your screen now. This would be on the northern facade. It reads Sterling Center Apartments, a total of 30 inches in height. You see it located at the top of the northern facade. On the southern facade, another sign that reads Sterling Center Apartments. This one is similar to the already approved sign on the eastern facade, slightly larger at 134 square feet. That is on the top of the southern facade. And just below it, near the entrance, sign that reads Leasing Office is 48 square feet. And this is more of a wayfinding sign to indicate where to locate the leasing office within the building. And those are the 3 proposed signs. The applicant is present tonight to answer any questions that you may have. And of course, you can make direct questions to the Office of Planning as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gallo, anything tonight?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have, and I want to also thank each and every one of you for giving us the opportunity to build this beautiful building here. It's something that we're very proud of, and we hope to be opening that building to our valued tenants, hopefully in June is our goal. So we want to thank you for allowing us to work here.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. We appreciate you and look forward to that. It's been fun watching it get constructed. Beautiful building. All right, I'll go out to the audience. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor.
Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski.
Resolved to approve the First Amendment to the amended and restated planned unit development agreement between the City of Sterling Heights and Sterling Retail LLC and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement on behalf of the city. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Actually, I don't have too much to ask. It's just improving the signage or updating the signage, and I am pretty happy with what I know of it, so I'm in favor of it, and I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Council, anyone else? Mr. Yanas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gallo, just a question. So I'm just curious as to why you feel that this is necessary to add these signs?
Well, the magnitude of the building, the size of the building, you know, a lot of people have been calling our office wondering, is it a hotel? You know, what type of product is it? So we want to get it out there that they are apartments, so you'll see the signage indicates that clearly they're designated as apartments. And we would like the exposure along the M59 corridor. As passerbyers are seeing the building, we feel that that will assist long-term.
Very good. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Gallo.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, anyone else? Mr. Radke.
Through the chair to either member of the planners who would like to answer. Usually we have a recommendation from the Office of Planning on whether we should approve or disapprove something. I don't see anything like that in this packet. I was wondering if the Office of Planning has a recommendation on the signage.
Our recommendation is to approve the signage. This is not out of character for an area that is predominantly commercial. Commercial sites have illuminated, internally illuminated signage, so we feel that the signage is appropriate.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radke.
Mayor
Mrs. Schmidt.
Taylor? I just have one comment, and that is I would prefer the signage the way you're proposing here than to have a pole sign. So I appreciate that, or a monument sign, so I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
through the chair to the petitioner, I like the signage, the way you have it presented, because that way the people can identify your building. They don't have to look for a monument sign or anything as they're driving. They can just look up, see it, and know exactly where they're going. And it, as you said, it identifies what it is. So, good choice. Is it illuminated at night
Yes, it is.
by light fixture?
It's internally lit.
Internally lit. Looks good.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Council, anyone else? No, as I said, I think it's a great building. It's very big, but I think it works very well in that parking lot. I was going to bring up to Mr. Radke that I read, I think in the New York Times or Wall Street Journal recently, that cities across the country are looking for ways that there's a parking glut, and developers are finding ways to take parking lots that are underutilized and turn them into something more appropriate, something better. It looks better, and it fits a need that we desperately need, which is housing right now. So commend you, Mr. Gallo. It's a great product, and I just recently drove by 14 in Shaner, saw that as well. So it's we're lucky to have you in the community. Thank you. I've signed the agreement, so with no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congrats. Good luck. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Good
thank
night.
you. All right, next on our agenda is item M from the consent agenda. And this is to adopt a resolution of intent to establish the Lakeside Corridor Improvement Authority and to designate the boundaries of the Corridor Improvement Development Area. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Mr. Orshada? I keep wanting to like put a CH, the Orshada. I know it's a J, but I just want I want that CH sound. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm excited to see the development of this area. A major concern that I have with regards to this district is I want to make sure that tax revenue that's generated in that district is benefiting the whole city at large, and that we're not relying on massive handouts to the businesses that would be coming into this district. It is a very attractive option. Of course, as a new mixed-use space, we have the opportunity of a lifetime in creating this new space and revitalizing this district. But we need to make sure that we're not losing sight of the greater city. There's a lot of areas that do need help, and it's very important to me that we don't compartmentalize the tax revenue that's going to be generated in this space and just keep pouring it into the space over and over again at the expense of the greater Sterling Heights region. Full disclosure, I'm not well versed on the differences between a corridor development authority and a downtown development authority and these different legal entities and tax structures. But I think that I convey my concerns and the concerns of a lot of residents, particularly on the south side of Sterling Heights, who I've talked to about this in the past several days, that they don't want to feel like they're getting left out of the picture, or that that the revenue that's getting generated by this and the investments that we're already making into this project are not going to come back to benefit that south side of the city. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else on this item? If not, Mr. Radke, do you want to make a motion? Do you want to pass?
I'll pass on making a motion.
Council, is there anyone that would like to make this motion?
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Zarko.
resolve to adopt a resolution of intent setting a public hearing for June 6, 2023 at 7 p.m. to consider the establishment of the Lakeside Corridor Improvement Authority and designation of the boundaries of the development area.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, council?
I'll let Mr. Radke go.
Sure. Mr. Radke.
I asked for this to be pulled, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked for this to be pulled from the agenda because it is my belief that a downtown development authority would benefit that area of the city much more than a corridor improvement authority, for a couple reasons. Both a corridor improvement authority and a DDA are TIF districts, tax increment financing, which essentially means we can use money, once we set the district, excess tax revenue is collected by the TIF and can be spent within the area to improve the area. Because it's a corridor improvement authority, through the chair to Mr. Bonner, I believe it has to be within 350 feet of the roadway, is what the parcel would be.
Mr. Bonner.
Good evening. Councilman Radke, it is actually 500 feet.
500 feet.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner. And because of that 500 feet, it creates a situation where if you look at the map, which is in the packet, especially on the south side of Lakeside Mall, there are a couple properties that are left out. I'm not as worried about the senior communities, which are already built and which are unlikely to be upscaled or anything, which would affect the TIF district, but there is a vacant lot and Island Park. And I know that this council has talked in the past about a bridge to Island Park and activating Island Park as part of this development. If it is not a part of the CIA, the money generated by the CIA cannot be spent outside of the CIA. So I think a DDA around Lakeside Mall, which encompasses Island Park, would give us more options. Additionally, a DDA doesn't require the ability to put I think it's up to a 2 mil ad valorem tax on the property to generate money inside it on top of the TIF revenue. I'm not saying this is an option that we should take, but if we're going to create an authority that's going to last for at least 30 years, I don't want to cuff our hands into the future. Maybe in the future we would need to generate tax revenue within the district. And I think that a DDA would most appropriately be used this way. There's been some discussion about whether the Van Dyke corridor would be a better fit for a DDA, but the Van Dyke corridor already has a CIA. We would essentially have to pay off the bonds, abolish the CIA, and create a DDA there. Here we're starting from scratch. There are some different requirements, and if necessary, I guess, Mr. Bonner, would you be willing to explain the difference between a CIA and a DDA very briefly?
Yeah, absolutely. So the points that you're bringing up tonight are, I think, appropriate, valid points of, evaluating a downtown development authority versus a corridor improvement authority. On the surface, they generally operate the same. Tax increment financing is the basis of both of these economic development tools. So when we looked at the comparison between the tools themselves, then we start to really kind of pull back the legislation and we start, quote unquote, splitting hairs between the two. And we made the recommendation for a corridor improvement authority for a couple of reasons. One, in terms of the statute overall, the corridor improvement authority is intended for suburban and commercial areas, which is generally what this is. The downtown development authority is statutorily intended for downtowns, which this area is not. There also, and to your point, there is a limitation also on the corridor improvement authority, which is essentially spelled out in the map, which is the boundaries can only go so far. Whereas the downtown development authority, the boundary can kind of keep going and going. But a major difference, even with when creating the boundaries, has a lot to do with the kinds of properties that are included, or at least the intent of the downtown development authority and the kinds of properties that are included. So the authority geographic boundary is really for the intent of preventing conditions of blight and deteriorating property conditions overall. and the intent of having a downtown area. There's also the ability to add 2 mills, which you had, that you'd already discussed. And there are several other issues related to, other citizen advisory councils. There's other layers of bureaucracy technically that are kind of part of this. But when you look at the Corridor Improvement Authority, again, it really goes back to, it's just for suburban commercial corridors. Lakeside overall meets the intent, which is the original goal, is to, help redevelop Lakeside. The district also includes Shaner, so there's a lot of, properties along Shaner over time that could redevelop. But it's really sort of intended to sort of create this bigger district outside of just Lakeside. So when we look at both of them, my professional opinion is, the Downtown Development Authority is really sort of targeted at downtown areas, which this is not. It's really targeted at areas that have, blighted property conditions, which in this case, Lakeside is the only one potentially that would have that in the future, which is why we want to redevelop to begin with. But outside of that, it doesn't really seem to fit. I mean, there's a clear difference between the two. But I think good questions all the same, and a reexamination of why we're looking at these two tools was appropriate. But I still think in the end, the Corridor Improvement Authority being kind of the best tool for it.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner.
Yeah.
And I guess my final point would be that Warren has a downtown development authority where they're trying to build their downtown for this express purpose. Warren has already done this. They're completely legal. They've been doing it for years. I think the DDA is the best option. If my colleagues disagree with me, we do a corridor. I completely understand that. But I am also looking at trying to improve the Island Park and the bridge we've talked about there. Because this corridor also expands to the eventual pathway to the ITC corridor that we've talked about. So that'll get built because it's in the Corridor Improvement Authority. I guess I'm concerned about adding something for the residents, especially the ones that border this area that are going to see some development and not really see anything else. We've had a budget request for that bridge to Island Park now for, I want to say 5 years on our capital improvements plan. We estimate that's going to cost $1.2 million to build that bridge. And I'm looking at a funding structure or a way to get that bridge so that residents can use Island Park. And if we include all of Island Park in a potential DDA, then we can also rectify the bridge to the south, which cannot carry a motor vehicle right now and is severely distressed and needs to be repaired also. So that's why I would recommend a DDA. That's all I have at this point, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Yanis.
through the chair to our development director. Sorry.
You are now the development director, Mr. Bonner.
Sorry.
Mr. Bonner.
Economic
Whatever you need to
Mr.
call
Bonner.
it all works.
Oh,
Our
boy.
Employee Plus.
Oh, boy. I'm just curious about the statement that you made about the DDAs being allowed to sort of creep. Who has the authority to expand a DDA?
So the city council has the authority to establish the DDA boundary. So the difference, and I think what Councilman Radke is trying to make, the current intent of creating a corridor improvement authority comes with the designated boundary, which is in the map. There are limitations to that. It's parcels within 500 feet of a defined corridor, which is M59 and Shaner. And so once you get outside that 500 feet, you can no longer include parcels in that. So, and that was meant, the statute was meant to do that, so it wasn't like this big massive corridor that kept going. So if you were to create a downtown development authority, then you could ultimately say, that map, isn't relevant anymore because we can make the boundaries farther and wider. And should we decide to do something like that? So in which corridor or downtown development authorities can do. They can go for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks.
But it would take a majority vote of city council to do that, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to say Luke, and I realized that was just inappropriate, and my mind went blank, and I apologize.
Senior Economic Development Advisor doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. It's not top.
That's all I had at the moment.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask one more question?
Go ahead, Mr. Radke.
Through the chair to Mr. Bonner. We can also, either as a DDA or as a corridor improvement authority, we could shrink the boundaries here if we wanted to. I know that when we first contemplated the Corridor Improvement Authority, it was literally just for the inside of Lakeside Circle. So this map we have in front of us, we could shrink it. Could we not, Mr. Bonner?
You could, if that was the decision council wanted to make. There are some parcels ultimately that have to be included because they are off of Shana or M59.
Has to
that
be
essentially
contiguous?
that sort of get in the way of, Lakeside being.
Has to be contiguous.
Has to be contiguous.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think on the other hand too, there's a lot going on Shana south of M59. I think that we also have to pay attention to, right, with some vacancies that have been there for quite some time.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Council, anyone else?
Mayor Taylor.
Mrs. Sarowski.
Thank you very much, Mayor Taylor, too. Mr. Bonner, I'm sorry, you should have just stood there. Make it easier. So I'm looking at the boundaries that we see right now with the proposed corridor improvement development, corridor authority development, the CIA. So as it's proposed right now, and what Mr. Radke is concerned about is that the Island Park is outside of that boundary. So we would not then be able to use the Corridor Improvement Authority to access Island Park as it is right now.
So you wouldn't be able to use any tax increment finance revenue from the Corridor Improvement Authority to make any physical enhancements or improvements to Island Park or any connections to it because it's outside of the legal district boundaries.
Because we're also accessing Shaner and that's gone too far over.
Correct.
Could we adjust the boundaries?
So the boundaries that you see on the map are clearly within what's allowed in the statute. So they're basically at their limits.
Or
As it
CIA.
is- As it is
For the
going
Corridor
far,
Improvement Authority, correct.
as it goes far enough west, could we adjust it east? And then capture the Island Park?
So there's really not a way to capture Island Park with
Why
the
not?
Corridor Improvement Authority.
Why not?
Because there isn't so part of the eligibility requirement is a roadway
I see.
that qualifies in the statute as an eligible roadway, and M59 and Shaner are eligible. The collector roads that feed into Lakeside do not count as a defined roadway within the statute.
Hayes does not qualify.
Hayes would qualify, but I still think distance-wise, it's too far away. I mean, the reality is you could take a Corridor Improvement Authority all the way down M59 as far as you wanted to take it, or down Shaner as far as you wanted to take it, as long as it met all of the requirements in the statute. So the Corridor Improvement Authority, the additional requirements in the statute, let me just pull this up really quickly. The corridor must have at least 51% of existing floor space classified as commercial. So when you look at extending the boundaries, as you continue to extend it, if you're
I've got a lot of
beginning to add
residential in
residential
there.
properties in that, for example, then that could be a disqualifier at some point. The corridor must have been in existence for the past 30 years. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
And then the corridor must be adjacent or is within 500 feet of a road classified as an arterial or collector road to the Federal Highway Administration, which M59 and Shaner are.
Hayes is also. Okay. Still not sold on the, I would never consider Lakeside Mall a downtown. That property is downtown, and I would never, because it's, to me, a downtown is downtown, at least somewhat centralized. And so, to me, it never would qualify, in my mind. So, I would not, I think that disqualifies it in my, as you've also said, also, Mr. Bonner. So, I'm just not finding that qualifies as a downtown. I would rather have it as a corridor improvement authority based on the qualifications so far, so right now. And we could find, there's grant money, there's also, as we found for Dodge Park, for our bridge for that. So I think that we would possibly be able to find some different avenues just to fund a bridge and to access a park. So, okay, I appreciate your input, Mr. Bonner, thank you. That's all I have right now, Mayor.
Council, anyone else? Mrs. Zarko.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. You know what? Right now, I don't really see a problem with this map. I mean, we've been talking about this for 5 years, And I can see that if you look at this, it is continuous with some of the commercial and retail that's there already. So I can see why we crossed Shaner, because a lot of, I mean, some of these are parking lots that could have some kind of development in their outlots, or, I mean, if we're reducing the number of required parking spaces for some of these structures, there is something that could be built in those parking lots. And I think Mr. Gallo's apartments, if I look at the map right, is there, and then we see his commercial strip mall there, and we can see the church. So this actually is continuous and runs, does it run to Canal? Because it looks like it's the Kroger Shopping Center.
It
It looks like.
Stops at Canal.
It stops at Canal. So I understand this. Right now, I don't think I'd want to put a bridge in from Island Park to Lakeside if it's going to be with all the construction. I think it's something that we can do in the future and probably could find the money through that in the budget, but not necessarily right now. But I would think if this is going to be redeveloped, now's not the time to put the bridge in. So I don't have a problem with the way this is presented to us.
And if I may, Councilwoman Zarko, one additional comment in terms of the expanded sort of district. So we had an update call with Lakeside today, and one of the things they started to go through with us is some of the design guidelines, for the project itself. So the benefit of having an expanded district is to be able to take those design guidelines and take it throughout the rest of that area, so that Lakeside itself is not one single development kind of unto itself. But now we're able to really make investments throughout this defined district with those kind of design guidelines, with those landscape guidelines, so that the district becomes a more larger lakeside district versus just one single project. And I think it's good for, for harmony and theme overall to have that. And then as far as, Island Park, I think as Lakeside progresses and we see the type of development that we think we'll see with a lot of residents, Island Park's going to become really popular. And I think at some point it's going to behoove the city to probably make that a priority to improve that anyways, just based on the popularity and potential usage, so.
Or Lionheart.
Or Lionheart.
Maybe they'll do
Eventually
it.
down the road,
Sometime down the road.
Yeah.
Mrs. Zarko.
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Bonner. What advantages do some of these existing businesses have now with this corridor improvement authority that they didn't have before?
Well, I think the biggest advantage is when Lakeside redevelops. Certainly adding a significant amount of density, new retail, new consumers, all within a very short distance from what their existing business is. I think that's number one. Having that major investment is going to help everybody. Number two, I think over time, there's so many case studies where, having a well thought out theme district that's well planned and there's a lot of uniformity in design and landscaping tends to benefit everybody as well. So I think those are just a couple of small things I think people would benefit from.
Thank you, nothing further.
All right, Council, anyone else? Mrs. Koski.
Through the chair to Mr. Bonner, give us a little update on how a CIA works. My understanding is that the city's portion of the taxes will be stopped when this goes through at that point. In other words, what the taxes, property taxes are, is what the city will receive. As the property increases in value, that additional tax will go into the CIA fund. Now, how do you spend that money? Is each property entitled to what their increase is for improvements, or does it go into one pot and then spent as needed?
No, that's a good question. So tax increment financing is, like you had just said, it's based on tax revenue generated from increase in property values in a defined district. So once the tax increment finance plan is adopted, then what the city general fund will get is what it has always received from those properties. The difference is as property values increase and the property tax revenue increases as a result of those values increasing, that goes to the authority, and any new development in that area that's generating new property tax revenue goes to the authority. The authority then, via a development plan, which it would then prioritize and identify different improvements to do in that district, then the authority would be able to budget and spend its dollars on those different improvements, throughout the entire district. So a property owner, really, there's no difference. They continue to pay their properties like they always have, but now they're in an area where their property taxes are then reinvested back into the area that they're paying their property taxes.
They just have to be nice to the board member.
We always have to be nice to board members.
Correct. That's all, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Koski. Anyone else?
Mayor Taylor, just briefly, through the chair to Mr. Bonner. So, Mr. Bonner, you talked about improvements that the TIF money can pay for. Can you give us some examples?
Certainly. So I would say just general public improvements, lighting, landscaping, signage, roads, water, sanitary, sewer, sidewalks, bridges, pedestrian areas, plazas. We can also do facade improvements on existing buildings, for example. So the types of improvements are pretty far-reaching. They have to be public improvements, though, with the exception of facade improvement is typically a private improvement, but there's a lot of precedent of how that actually works through these tax increment finance authorities. But generally, all the improvements have to be within the public realm, and all improvements have to be things that the city ends up owning at the end.
Okay. I'm comfortable with the fact that you said, Downtown Development Authority is for downtowns, and this is not a downtown in my view. So I'm comfortable with the CIA going forward as well. Nothing further.
Mrs. Zarowski, anything else?
No, I pass. Thank you very much.
Mr. Radke.
Just a couple more brief questions. One, is a TIF required to capture 100% of the taxes, or could it choose to capture less?
So that is a really good question. That ends up being a policy decision. So a tax increment finance authority can capture 100% of the taxes. But if it decides that it's only going to capture 90%, then it's 90% for every single millage that is captured within that district. So it would be 90% of the city and 90% of the county and 90% of the Huron-Clinton Metro Authority and community college and so on and so forth. So we couldn't pick just, which
Absolutely.
ones we capture, but you certainly
It's across
can.
the board. If you
It's
cut
across the
10%, it's across the board 10%.
Correct.
Yeah. Just briefly, you talked about public improvements, but a DDA or a CIA could also do an advertising campaign, decorations. They can do different things to improve the general area. I know that CIAs and DDAs do advertising campaigns.
Sure, yeah, marketing.
Could
Yeah.
do a social district. It could pay for the marketing in social district. It's not, I just want to make a point here that it's not just building sidewalk that this could be used for, or building a bridge. It could be used to market the area.
Correct.
It could be used to do a lot of other things that we're thinking too much on, I think, actual improvements like sidewalk. But it could do a number of different things. And furthermore, I wanted just to remark on what the term downtown means. The term downtown came into the lexicon from New York City, which was the first large metropolis in the United States. And downtown in New York is actually downtown, because the island of Manhattan is a north-south island. That's where the term downtown comes from. But traditionally, I looked this up last night, if you open the dictionary to what downtown is, it is the commercial center of a city. That is what the downtown is. And if Lakeside is not the commercial center of Sterling Heights, or was at one point, I like to point to someone else to tell me where it is, because that's where the downtown would be. So to me, with a DDA, you get a 2 mil added tax if you want to. You're not required to assess that tax. You're not required to assess any of the tax. You're not required to capture 100% of the district. But if we're going to create a district to make improvements, let's make improvements for the residents. Because I'm all for businesses improving their facade, but if we're going to reinvest in that district, we're going to reinvest in a pathway to the ITC corridor, we should also be reinvesting in a pathway to Island Park to make improvements to Island Park that we have not made for the 5 years that I've known about them, and which I doubt will be made for the 10 years after this, unless we have a way to capture money to do it. And that's a way to do this right here. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radke. Mr. Yanez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to, I guess, Mr. Vanderpool, the bond that we're proposing for this Lakeside Mall project, who is going to issue the bonds? Who's going to be in control of the money, the city or the authority?
Mr. Vanderpool?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Yanez, the city would issue the bonds. The Corridor Improvement Authority would be in charge of paying the debt service. It would all be paid for through the tax increment financing that's being discussed this evening. And then there would still be some excess TIF revenue as well. And then, as noted earlier, that's just for the Lakeside proper redevelopment. With this larger district, you can use TIF revenue for other improvements outside of the Lakeside proper area.
So can you explain how this works then? We issue the bonds, but the authority is responsible for paying down the debt?
Well, I don't want to steal Mr. Bonner's thunder.
Oh,
Maybe you could explain.
If you want to clarify. But in essence, the principal point is that TIF will be paying for the bonds, and there's sufficient TIF revenue to cover the bonds. But Luke, you can go through the mechanics of it.
Yeah, my point is somebody's responsible for that money. Is it elected officials or appointed officials?
It's, the city issues a general obligation bond, which is backed by the revenues from the tax increment financing district.
And the authority?
It's a double bootstrap. And the reason, so the authority is the one that passes the budget every year. What that budget is, includes a bond payment.
Okay, all right. And through the chair to Mr. Koszybski, Mr. Koszybski, can an authority in and of itself be sued?
Mr. Koszybski?
Yeah, I can. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'm sure we'll have this discussion coming up again.
Okay.
Mayor Taylor?
We've,
Mayor Taylor?
I'm not sure if this is round 4, 5, 6. All right,
Okay.
Out of questions.
Mrs. Zarko.
It's my understanding that the elected body oversees the corridor improvement. So
approve the
we've
budget.
got, it's double layers of protection. Okay.
That's how we've used all the other authorities,
Okay.
is the authority ends up being a recommending body to the city council.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how we've always had the policy here.
All right, any more? Anyone else? Okay. I'm going to vote for the Corridor Improvement Authority. So can we have a roll call vote, Ms. Riska?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, before we do this, this is just to set the date?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just
In the hearing, yeah.
sorry.
Ms. Riska, sorry.
Mr. Radke?
No.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mrs. Rasky?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Yanez?
Yes.
Mrs. Yarko?
Yes.
Rasky?
Yes.
All right, motion carries 6-1. Thank you, Mr. Bonner. That concludes that portion of our agenda tonight, so I will move on to communications from citizens. Anyone that wants to speak on any item not on tonight's agenda? Yes, sir?
Good evening. My name's Norm Simpson. I've been a resident of Sterling Heights for over 30 years. I've been in the recycling business since I was 23. I am now 75. Well, we'll be in 4 days. And I just want to talk about curbside recycling and give you the truth about curbside recycling. Curbside recycling, a good curbside recycling program, not average, a good one, above average, picks up 1 out of every 5 houses once a week. They pick up somewhere in the neighborhood of between 2 and 3 pounds. By the time a truck leaves the yard, drives there, picks up this 1 container every 5 houses, gets to the next one, it's created more pollution and burned more energy than you could ever possibly recover. Recycling's a good thing if it's done responsibly. The only thing that curbside recycling does, and the biggest thing it does, it makes the hauling company very, very profitable. Because I would love a job where all I had to do was 20% of the work and get paid as if I was doing 100%. And that's what the truth of curbside recycling comes down to. Those are the hard facts. If you want to do something to help curbside recycling, I would suggest that you open up another one or two recycling centers again, similar to what you had years ago, and save the citizens literally millions of dollars in taxes. Because now the households on average are not even 3 people per household now in this country. They've dropped for the last 25 years. So that's what it comes down to. You're just going to be spending taxpayers' monies on something that they don't even participate in. Only once out of every 5 houses. And that's once a week. Years ago, when curbside first started, and I think the first city here was St. Clair Shores, I lived there at that time. They had a city council meeting advertised on television. I watched it, and they had someone there stand up and say they have an 80% participation rate. I'm in the business, I'm listening to this, I'm going, 80%, how do they ever get that? And so I called them up and I asked them, and they said they did a survey. And I said, okay, fine. What was the question that was asked? Have you ever participated in curbside recycling? The answer was yes. Didn't ask them how often or how much, just if they ever had. And so I know there were a couple of council members here that voted against it last time, and we proposed back then that if people wanted to have curbside recycling, they deal directly with the hauling company, which is what we have now. Those people that want to have it are dealing directly with it. The other citizens, 80% of them or 90% that don't want to have it and don't want to pay for it, they'd rather just load up their car when they get a trunk load of material, take it to the recycling center, drop it off, and it's over and done. Saves literally millions of dollars. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. And the hauling companies, years ago, I had a chance when I was 23 to get involved with waste management
Sir, that's.
for
we're gonna have to-
$35,000.
We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Who'd like to be next under communications from citizens? Mister.
He's trying.
So the J should be silent. No, it sounds like a. It
No,
sounds
it's
like
not
a
silent.
Spanish.
Is it a Spanish name?
Sounds like a
No, it's
Spanish
not
word.
Spanish.
Mr. Mayor,
I know, I'm just saying it.
you're thinking horchata, which is a rice drink, rice cinnamon flavored drink, and that's made in Mexico. And I know you spent time in
I've never heard
Mexico.
that.
He's
But
Polish.
Yeah,
I'm Polish-Ukrainian.
Polish-Ukrainian name he's got.
It's not very difficult.
So we can grab coffee or dinner sometime. I would love to hang out with you, and,
just
we can workshop this. And,
Polish-Ukrainian.
Anytime you want.
all right, thank you so much, Mayor Taylor. I just wanted to let council know that Workers' Memorial Day is April 28th this year. I've sent a couple members of council a proposed resolution or proclamation document to present at a future council meeting, but would love to have the city's support for Workers' Memorial Day. It commemorates workers who have been injured or lost their lives on the job, and it's just really important to myself and other laborers in the community. And would love to have your support, and in future years would love to know if, or perhaps help the city coordinate some sort of event that we could do in commemorating it, to, bring more recognition to this really important, holiday. So that's all I got. Thank you so much for your time, and, I'll be in touch.
Thank you. Look forward to it. Ken Brandy, anything tonight? I'm good. Okay, I'll close that portion and we'll go on to reports from city administration. Mr. Vanderpool?
Nothing further, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Koszybski?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Council, any reports, new business?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Yanas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool, I wonder if you can give us an update on, now that we're in springtime, street sweeping?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Yanez, we have 4 street sweepers. They are ready to roll. We'll start sweeping in a couple of weeks. We start with the major roads first and arterial streets, and then we move into the neighborhoods. We have 5 revolutions that we complete on major roads, and in neighborhoods, it's 4 revolutions throughout the sweeping season. You know, the weather just turned, so you heard earlier, one of our sweepers is a waterless sweeper, but the other ones are water, so we do have to wait for the weather to break and ensure there's no icing conditions. So we'll be in the clear in a couple of weeks, and you'll see the sweepers out.
And I'm sure it's important for people to get their cars off the street when the sweepers are in the neighborhood. Also, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to point out that the month of April is Autism Awareness Month. As a matter of fact, a couple days ago, April 2nd was Autism Awareness Day. And so in order to recognize autism awareness here in the city of Sterling Heights, and I think many of you know that 1 in 36 children are born on the autism, are diagnosed on being on the autism spectrum, which here in Sterling Heights means somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 of our citizens are on the spectrum. So we'd like to honor those families and those that are on the spectrum by lighting the halo blue, which is the color for Autism Awareness Month. And I was just wondering if the city could do that the weekend of April 14, 15, and 16.
Mr. Vanderpool, council, do you need direction on that?
Without objection from City Council, Mayor, we're happy to light the halo and also push out some social media and other public education material.
Very good. Thank you. One more thing, Mr. Mayor. So this is something that's very near and dear to me. I noticed mostly when we were doing the reconstruction here in City Hall and the police department, and we had to bring out our Veterans Memorial area, ripped it out, and then put in the new one. And one of the things I noticed at that time was, I feel that we're missing some sort of recognition to those who fought in both the Iraq and the Afghanistan conflicts. As you know, that there were 2 conflicts in Iraq back in the early 1990s, 1991, Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and also there was Desert Saber. But then after 9/11, there was also Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom, which is the war in Afghanistan, which was the longest war in the history of our country. And the other thing is that what people may not know is that what is known as the global war on terror, which is our post 9/11 wars, which includes other countries other than Iraq and Afghanistan. But because we have an all-volunteer army, all volunteer military, many people who served had to serve multiple terms or chose to serve multiple terms, where in the Vietnam era, multiple terms may have meant 2 tours of duty, maybe 3 tours of duty. In these conflicts, we saw people serving 4, 5 tours of duty, away from their family, away from their home, away from their jobs. And it's taken a toll on those who served. And it's estimated that for those who served in the global war on terror, more than 30,000 have died by suicide, while just over 7,000 died in battle. So more than 4 times as many of those who served died at their own hand from the mental and emotional conflicts that they had from serving their country. Once again, it came to the forefront when, through leadership of my colleague, Councilwoman Sarosky, we renamed the area, the Micah Dragna, is it a memorial?
Yep.
Memorial, Veterans Memorial. And I think looking at, it's just my humble opinion, but I think that looking at where we are today with our veterans, our Vietnam veterans are now in their 70s. Even those who fought in the first Gulf War in 1991 are now in their 50s and some even in their 60s. I think that at a minimum, we can put a stone monument out in front of City Hall just to say a simple thank you to those who served in those conflicts. This particular group of veterans, it really is under the radar. And one of the reasons why there are so many suicides with this group is because of the emotional trauma and stress that they suffered. And they do not want any recognition. They do not want to be engaged. You rarely see them joining things like the VFW or American Legion. But they are still suffering in silence. And I certainly hope that my colleagues agree with me that, again, just having a simple memorial would be a way of saying, Sterling Heights saying thank you to those who served. So without objection, I would like to ask city administration to do an investigation on the cost and the timeline to create a monument that we can put out at the Mike Dragna Veterans Memorial.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Sarowski.
I want to echo Mr. Yanez's request, but I would like to separate them because they are certainly, one age group is my husband's age group who did serve in Gulf War, and the second age group is my son's age group who served, my son served in Afghanistan. So I think that there's completely different people, different groups, and they should be separated. So, just
It's
to let
okay
you
with
know.
me. I was
Yeah.
just thinking
Yeah, they
there's a
both
space issue.
Well,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
both need to be recognized, yes.
Yeah.
But separate, completely separate groups.
Well, I think it's very well intentioned, and I appreciate Mr. Yanez bringing it up, and I certainly appreciate your context and clarification there with knowing that your husband and your son served in those different conflicts, and I think that the point is that
But they do need to
they're
be
very different,
recognized.
and
Yeah.
but they both deserve separate
Recognition.
appreciation and recognition. How about this? Can we just say that this is a worthy thing that we should look into, and we should take the approach that we've got this beautiful park, and it's meant to honor veterans and people who served in our armed forces, and specifically calling them out for the specific conflicts that they served in. Why don't we just instruct their administration
Look into it.
to take the comments that were made tonight, see what we can do to appropriately recognize those members of the armed forces who served in conflicts recently, as in over the last 30 or so years.
Right.
And see if there's some additions that we can make there to appropriately recognize and honor them. Fair enough?
Appreciated, and thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, can we put a timeline on that and ask the city get this done within the next 60 days? If that's possible.
Report back in 60 days. Is that feasible?
Mayor and Councilman Yanez, I think in 60 days, we can get you some sort of meaningful concept plans that, and then if you want to provide us some further direction, then we might have to fine tune them and provide a little more research.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Yanez?
I'm all set, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
Council? Mr. Radke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, I fully support my colleagues, and I think that this is worthy of memorialization, and I agree with Mr. Yanez, there might be a space issue, but we can work on that. We can figure out a way to make sure everyone is honored equally. I just briefly wanted to talk today about our pedestrian island at 15 Mile and Van Dyke. 2 weeks ago, an individual was crossing at the island in the crosswalk and was struck by a vehicle and had to be taken to the hospital. In the marked crosswalk, crossing the street, he is mentally disabled, and he was going to McDonald's. And it's unconscionable to me that we have created a pedestrian island just for this purpose, because this is the fifth person since I've been on council who's been struck right there. And still drivers are not obeying what is basic traffic law, that if someone is in a marked crosswalk crossing the street, you have to give way for them. There's signs. I know that the city is looking at some further improvements to this area, but I like to bring attention to these because too many drivers are driving around not paying attention. If someone is in a marked crosswalk with signs all around it saying this is a crosswalk, and they are struck by a vehicle at speed, it tells you that drivers are not respecting the crosswalk, and it could be anyone. It doesn't have to be this gentleman, it could be me, you, or anyone else. So I would ask the drivers at home to pay attention. And I don't know what else we can do, because 2 people have died at that exact area. And now 3 more, this is the third one who's been struck who hasn't died. That's 5 since I've been on city council. I don't know what else we can do to make it safer there, but it's a problem, and we need to have a solution, because I can't believe that one little cross area, one little area, Tiffany Drive right there, has led to so much death and destruction. I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Radke.
Mayor
Mrs.
Tim?
Zarko.
I'm going to add a little more to what Mr. Radke said, is that the crosswalk is there, but do you know how many times I've watched people cross the street between the crosswalk and Van Dyke and are not even using it? So it isn't just the drivers in that area, it's also the pedestrians. So we've given them the opportunity to cross in a safe area, and some people still aren't using it. So I just wanted to add that to it, because it's drivers and pedestrians. Nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Zarko. Council, anyone else? If not, we will be back here a week from today, right? We will have our first budget hearing a week from today. We will have a council meeting a week after that, and then we'll have another budget hearing 1 week after that. So next week starts at 6:30, Mr. Vanderpool?
Correct.
Budget hearing at 6:30 next week. So thank you to everyone that came out today. One more time, I just want to say thank you to the employees that were honored and recognized tonight, and thank you to every single city employee who works hard for the residents of our town. So with that, council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.